Hello, everybody. Welcome back. Hi, Mike. How's it going?
What's up?
Hi. We're good over here. I think some folks are still trickling in from the previous session,
Okay.
so we'll wait a little bit here for everyone to join. Since it's going to be a very interactive session, I just want to make sure everyone's here, as many people as possible.
Works.
I don't think you've met my colleague Laura. Laura, this is Mike. He's going to be the co-presenter today. Laura is part of the success team.
Hi, Mike. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too, Laura. I don't know how successful we'll be though.
I'm sure it'll be very successful.
I think it will. Right. I will warn everyone who's here right now is that this session is going to be very interactive, and I'm very excited about this. We are going to be using technology, which is very fitting. If you were at the keynote session this morning, we talked about embracing technology, about how students are storytellers, or how we can infuse storytelling in education. And uh, you're in the right session to try to bring this to life. Mike will walk us through some of his own tips here and best practices when it comes to ensuring that, portfolios are student-centered, student-driven, and student-created as well, which is very important. All right, so just being mindful of time, I want to maximize the next hour we have together. I think we can go ahead and get started. I won't spend too much time introducing myself. You've seen myself throughout the entire sessions today. But again, Tatiana, part of the Spaces EDU team here. You've probably seen me in your trainings, but I will let my guest introduce himself.
Hello, everybody. My name is Mike Lang. I'm the Chief Innovation Program Officer for Ed Extraordinary, which is um, a disruptive educational consortium here in Las Vegas, Nevada. We really look at how we might empower both teachers and students to do the creative work that we know everyone's capable of. I was a teacher for 18 years, started in Mississippi, went to Taiwan and taught English, and then I ended up in Las Vegas for the last 15 years of my career. So I've been doing this for about 3 years. And so to get us started, this it's still quasi afternoon for me. It's 12:35 here in Las
That's
Vegas.
right.
So it's early for me still, but um if you had to keynote an event, right? What is the song that plays as you walk into that arena? Is it like, a Queen song? Is it a Drake song? Like what pops off? So throw that in the chat. What is that song that introduces you to the world? Include in that song, including your in the chat as well. What grade level or role you teach at wherever you teach. Let's give people a couple of minutes to do that. So of course Jennifer chooses Imagine Dragons, and that's Las Vegas. So again, shout out to Jennifer. We like Imagine Dragons. Eye of the Tiger's a great song. So Drake, the Lord has Drake, which is cool. I'm a Nas fan, so I kind of go in that particular area. So very dope, very dope.
Survivor.
I mean, it's a good song. I mean, it's kind of cliche, but it's a good song.
That's amazing.
You know, can't hate on Survivor. It's like a parent trying to choose their favorite child. I agree. I agree to an extent. So that is true. There's a lot of really good songs out there, but like, you want to get the keynote, a big conference one time in your life, probably you want that one like banger to come out. So super dope, super dope. You want to go ahead and move on, Tatiana? All right. So as we kind of work together today, we are going to be centered in creation. And we're going to be building a song that informs an audience about a topic. This song is going to be less than 45 seconds long or no more than 45 seconds. We're going to make sure it's factually accurate. We're going to do some research, and then we're going to add an instrumental track behind it as well. And when we think about audience, I really want you to think about the learners that you collaborate with on a regular basis. That's going to be your audience. Those are going to be your users. So keep them top of mind. We're kind of going to walk you through a particular process today. And again, don't worry so much about keeping up. I think that's kind of something that a disclaimer to put out there in the forefront. Everything that we're going to do has been recorded and it's on a Padlet for you, so you can follow along. You can change it. You can do what you need to. Don't worry so much about getting it right. Really come with your inquisitive hat on. Ask questions. Really be someone who's looking to understand how things work and really be unabashedly yourself. We want everyone to be authentic on our call today. So if there's questions, comments, concerns, or beauty tips, please let those be known through the chat. All right, questions, comments, concerns, beauty tips before we move on. Awesome sauce. Our topic is going to be the North American beaver. Now, why? Why would it be the North American beaver? Any ideas why this animal in particular is going to be our topic today? Put them in the chat if you have ideas. They like wood. That's true. That is absolutely true. This is a Canadian company. The North American beaver is very much
I
Canadian.
see what you did there, Mike.
So, hey, how could we highlight Canada here? All right, so the North American beaver. As someone who's not Canadian, it was very interesting researching birds and animals and songs and things that really were Canadian. So it's like, all right, beaver, not something I know a lot about. Really cool. So we get Jill, great. The fur trade, very important to how Canada was settled. And the North American uh, beaver is the animal that represents Canada. So very cool. Let's go to our next slide, please. And as we go through what we need to deal with, there are some lenses, a prism that we're going to look through our work. And we're going to call the set list because we're making a song. And so first and foremost, it's being productive. We're going to look at a process. We'll look at a product. We're going to look at a portrait. And then we're going to think about portfolios. And Tatiana, I like what you said at the beginning, the storytelling aspect, this owning your own narrative, being authentic to yourself. That's really what our the concept of portfolio, and I think what the idea of education should be, right? How am I authentically myself on a daily basis, constantly improving and reflecting on the things I do very well and things I need to improve upon, right? And portfolios give us kind of that novel as we walk through
Mhm.
a learning process that really helps students demonstrate that. So, question for the chat. How do you know that your learners are being productive in class? What are some characteristics they might demonstrate? What are questions they might ask? What are behaviors they might exhibit? If you said this person's being productive in class, what does that actually mean in your space? We'll give folks a couple minutes. What does that mean? Ideas. Let's move to the next slide and have people throw things in. Okay, cool. So Yvette threw something in. They're talking to each other about the topic they're working on. Excellent. Laughing, always a good thing. Laughing
Hmm.
is wonderful. Conversation, chatter on topic, how to solve particular questions, or people are thinking about the problems that they're attempting to solve. Always good things. The laughter thing is super to me. As someone who, I tend to be kind of cheery in classroom. Currently means questions, productive noise, and moving around as well. Absolutely, we don't want people standing. There's a reason why we say people think on their feet, right?
Hmm.
Asking questions, thinking faces. I like that a lot. Thinking faces is cool. So thinking on their feet is important. Everyone's engaged. Also dope. Excellent. Ensuring all is involved. There's a collaborative spirit, and no one is left behind in that conversation. And people can be authentically themselves. Everyone does not communicate in the same way, right? So some people might be very reserved, and that should be respected and not called out. All right. So being productive in the Mike Lang definition has three different parts. And I only put two parts there on this slide, but it's all good. There's a problem, which necessitates a process that ends in a product. So productive, problem, process, product. That's always how I've looked at it. Since I had some very wise OGs kind of take me underneath their wings when I was a young teacher and say, okay, look, we really want at the end of a process, students need to be able to say, here's this thing that I made. And we can have some feedback around this thing, and that the process doesn't stop with the feedback. You give them time to go and improve the product that they actually built, which I think a lot of times, especially as a younger teacher, I didn't do. It was like, you write an essay for the class, you get a C, and then like, here's what you need to improve upon, but we never actually revisited that, gave the student an opportunity to actually put in practice the suggestions that were given to them. So that's one of the things to kind of think about as well as we think about portfolios. And so the process we're going to use today is kind of a modified design thinking process. Anyone familiar with design thinking, anyone big design thinking fans in their classrooms or their learning environments? If you aren't, great thing to kind of to look at. Absolutely. Yvette is familiar with it. It is the way that I've done. I was predominantly a K-5 teacher. So it was how I kind of made sure that kids were always working through a problem consistently. And so kids could say, I'm in the empathy phase of my work right now. We all understood what that meant. Again, there's tons of different processes out there, but we're going to use design thinking just because it's the one that I'm most familiar with. All right. So when we think about design thinking, empathy is really kind of looking at users and being very sensitive to what users need, what problems they might be experiencing, observing them, and really being sensitive to that. Analysis is really looking at how we look at what we've gathered, all the information, the research we've done, and then we move to, I call it daydreaming. Lots of people call it brainstorming. Daydreaming kind of is I like wild and crazy ideas about how to solve problems. Brainstorming is kind of more restrictive, let's think about reality, which I'm not particularly fond of, but whatever. An opportunity to generate some ideas. Then prototyping is going to pick an idea and kind of put it into practice, and then finally that test feedback and reflection, where we're going to see if that idea actually solves the problem, we're going to gain some ways that we might improve our idea, and then we're going to reflect on the entire process. These are the things that I did. This is why I did them. These are people that I worked with. All that wonderful stuff. All right, questions, comments, concerns, beauty tips on the process that we're going to use today. All right, excellent. So we're going to think empathy first. And the user that we're going to be considering again is the young people in your learning environment. If you're no longer in a learning environment, think about some old students that you might have had, or if you're working adjacent some students, some kids that are in your family, perhaps kids in your neighborhood or whatever. And I want you to think about, because we're writing a song or we'll be creating a song, what genres of music do the young people in your orbit, what do they listen to? Are they listening to John Denver? Are they listening to Drake? Are they listening to Travis Scott? Are they listening to Mariah Carey? Whatever. What artists do they listen to? What vocabulary do they use? Like, every day I go into a classroom, it's some new term that a kid is using, and I'm like, hey, what exactly does that mean? Oh, it means this. Okay, cool. When I was your age, this is the term we use for that particular thing. Oh, okay, cool. So now we have this like shared vocabulary. And what kind of places, what kind of books do they read? And then what kind of websites do they visit? Are they TikTok fans? Are they YouTubers? Are they kids who are going on Crunchyroll and watching anime for God knows how many hours? Like, what kind of media are these students consuming on a regular basis? So you could, write those things down really quickly, write them in a notebook, write them in the chat, et cetera, et cetera. So we have those, the kind of to refer to. And actually, I'm going to do this. I am going to put this in the chat right now. I'm going to put the link in the chat to the Padlet right now, Tatiana, just so people have it. So if you click that particular link, everything we're going to go through and do today is there. And so if there's questions, comments, concerns, or whatever, that's where it is. But that very first one, if you look at the parameters of the songs are there, and then like getting to know our students is there as well. So kind of keep that top of mind. Let's go to the next one, the analysis function, because we're already going to be kind of paused for time. All right, cool. So before we get into, go back to empathy again, Tatiana, totally
Okay.
forgot. Cool. So the other thing is we're designing for a user, but we also need to know what we're designing for the user, right? So the song is what we need to design. And I don't know a lot of facts about the North American beaver off the top of my head. That's kind of beyond my skill set. And so there are God knows how many websites that do North American beaver stuff, but I use the National Zoo in the United States. There are probably a ton of websites that are in, that are, as Canadians, you probably know a ton of different websites that are there. But I really want you to think about, before we get to like looking into what the actual facts of the North American beaver are, what kind of questions would you ask? Oh, what would you expect again? Rather, what would you expect if you had to quiz someone on the North American beaver? What kind of facts would that person be expected to know? I guess is the question. So thinking about things like diet, for example. What do they eat? That's a question that, if you walk into a kindergarten class, that's probably the first question you're going to get, right? Where they might they live? Do they have any predators? Uh, are they on the endangered species list? What is the history of a beaver in America? We also got to mention that. Hey, the fur trade was huge. Great. Because the fur trade was that huge, are there any beavers left? Be a question that I would ask, right? And so kind of, either mentally, you can write it down on the Padlet, you can write it down on a notebook or whatever. What kind of questions would you make sure that any song that we were able to design would answer for a user listening to the song? Because the goal is to inform the person about the North American beaver. I'm going to put it back in there. Oh, I've only put it in the pad. I'm sorry. I'm not used to being the host or a panelist, so I'm going to go and change that so everyone could see it. My bad. There we go. It's to everyone. So the Padlet's there. And so we're in the empathy phase here. If you want to add things as we go around, that's cool. We don't have a lot of time, but the entire process is kind of lined out here. And this is going to live as long as the link lives. So you could take it, you could remix it if you're a Padlet user. This is like my number one tool to use with anybody I'm working with because it doesn't require logins and there's a lot of dynamic tools inside here. So if you're not using Padlet, it is my number one favorite, like Thanos tool is what I call it, because it has you can do a lot of really, really cool stuff with it. All right, so super dope. So first and foremost, again, we talk about our users. We kind of mentioned a little bit about what they, think about, what kind of media they consume, questions about the North American beaver that you would expect someone to know if they were knowledgeable about it, which is cool. Now let's kind of really get into, and we can kind of do this as like a demo-ish type thing, Tatiana.
Yep.
Um, so let's really get into just generally about the facts about the North American beaver. Like, so if you could, can you share the national the Smithsonian website?
Open it up.
Yep. Excellent. So if you've got that there, I generally like sites like this just because they're very easy to navigate. So if we had to go and say, we've got all the information there, we've got the physical description, hind, feet, et cetera, et cetera. We got the size of the animal, we've got what their native habitats are. They're all over the place. They happen to be in Nevada as well, which is kind of cool. They live for 10 to 12 years. They live 30 years on human care. So we have all this stuff here. And this is super important because we're going to be talking a little bit about AI. How many people have used artificial intelligence in their class or in their just like their daily walk through life? Lots of people, hopefully, at this particular point. So excellent. Anyone like very concerned about AI and how it's utilized in schools? Okay, we have people who are on side here. All right, so cool. So generally when I'm working with teachers, one of the biggest things, biggest impediments to a lot of the AI stuff is, oh, the kids are going to cheat. They're going to have it write stuff for them or build things from, et cetera. And that's why when we talk, especially when we're talking about portfolios and authentic student creation, there needs to be a process in place. This is how we work through our work. Not we go to ChatGPT or whatever it is, and we throw in a weak prompt that gives us a very substandard product, and something we ride with it. And so I always like to start with students having to research a particular thing in chasing building a particular product. Great. I know certain things to be true because what you've hopefully found out with AI is the human is more important when we start looking about AI because we need to be able to fact check output. We can't take output for face value. We have to say, okay, is this reasonable? When it spits something out, did it actually follow the prompting? Is it actually accurate and concise the way we want it to be? And so we're not going to go through this entire thing, but here are actual facts that are built on the web by verified scientists that say, yo, this is how a beaver's life looks. Great. We would go through, students would go and find, hey, answer questions that we gave them, their sleep habits, their social structure, all that kind of stuff. And we could do that analog, where they're just writing it down in a notebook. We could put it on a Padlet. We could put it on chart paper in the room, any number of different strategies we might use. So we're not going to go through all that because I want to build some stuff with you as we're online today. So cool. Here's a place that has actual verifiable beaver facts for us. All right, cool. Questions, comments, concerns, beauty tips, suggestions? Anyone have AI like tips and tricks? Anything before we continue? All right, super dope. We can head back to the slideshow with Tatiana. All right, cool. So we would apply their diet and their environment and the history in Canada and on any number of things that we put inside there. All right, let's go to the next slide, please. So this is where I think AI really helps us. Now, how many times in the past have you had like writer's workshop? And the writer's workshop you would have to spend like 5 days, 10 school days writing an essay, and it would be so long, and suddenly the kids lose interest, or a kid is absent. And the question I hated as a classroom teacher was, Mr. Lane, what did I miss? Because I'm like, oh my gosh, now I got to remember what day you were out, how long you were out. And it always takes me back to when I was a high school sophomore. I got shingles. And I don't know if you have experienced what shingles feels like. Chicken pox is like bad. Shingles is adult chicken pox. It's really not a pleasant thing. And I got it over Christmas break, which also sucked. So I'm isolated in my bed in Christmas. Everybody was opening their presents, they're having fun and stuff like that. And when I got back to school, they called me chocolate chip, which is also hilarious. But I was out of school for about 2.5 weeks. So leave Christmas break, 2.5 weeks, 2.5 weeks of instruction. I'm coming back to my teachers like, what did I miss? And like, that is a really difficult lift. And that was in the 90s. So it was a difficult lift then. It's not a very particularly fun lift here. So how could we take some of the mundanities of the writing process and really still apply ideas, grammar, the importance of being able to tell a concise story, but utilize some of the AI tools as well. And so lyrics, if we had to write lyrics for a song, it might take us a long time to do that, depending on the person. Some people are naturally musical. It might take you 15 minutes, it might take me 3 or 4 hours. I don't have that much time to spend on that. And so one of the things I like to think about as we're working with teachers is AI is not going to take your job. Someone who's working with AI is very prolific with AI, that person might. Those two things are important. If you're not someone who's
Hmm.
familiar with Ethan Mollick's work, Ethan, Ethan, Mollick, Mollick. He just wrote a great book. He's a professor at Wharton School of Business at the University of Pennsylvania. So written a book called Co-Intelligence. And that is the term that I really have taken and run with as I work with teachers and students. How are we allowing teachers and students to be co-intelligent with the AI? So we're going to kind of give you an example of that today. All right. Is there any way I can get my screen shared, Tatiana?
Yep, let me stop sharing.
Excellent. All right. Let's do that. Can we screen share? Excellent. And I want that one to work. Cool. Can everyone see my screen?
Yep.
All right, cool. So here is the little Padlet and stuff for, for your when you do what you need to do. I've got little videos as well that are going to demonstrate this particular process a little bit more as well. So you don't have to like pay uber attention. The videos are all there. But one of the tools that I always come back to when I'm working with teachers is Perplexity. And I like Perplexity because one of the things that is super important is student privacy. And so Perplexity.ai does not require you to use any account to log in at all. I still have all the ability to use any of the GTP tools and anything like that. Doesn't cost you anything. If you want to save the work, you can log in with your Google account. Lots of schools have students have Google emails that they can utilize or whatever. But this really gives you some anonymity if you want to go walk through things. And it also provides a lot of great scaffolds if you're a teacher. So we're going to kind of walk through things. And as we're building, um, we're going to assume that we've done research already with the North American beaver. We know certain things to be true, some certain facts and whatnot. All right, students have a notebook full of facts. They've spoken to people. We have verified verified links from the internet or YouTube videos or wherever have you. So we're going to go with that assumption, right? And so when we start to build prompts, prompt engineering, big business, it's something that everyone needs to be able to do at this particular point. We want to build a prompt that gets us to a specific product at the end or specific output at the end. And because we're thinking about songs, we want to first think about perspective, all right? So perspective, where do we want this bot? How do we want this bot to be articulated as it's thinking about what we're building? So I want you first of all to think about, you are a Grammy award winning songwriter. So I'm trying to articulate, hey, we don't want bottom of the barrel, like easy, like garbage type stuff. Let's heighten our expectations for our particular song. All right. So Grammy award winning songwriter. Great. You have studied, let's go, Loretta Lynn, Conway Twitty, and let's say Johnny Cash, and find inspiration in their lyrical styles. You have been asked to create a theme song for the North American Beaver. Now, we got hopefully a perspective this things we'll be looking at. Really want the idea or the style of Conway Twitty and Loretta Lynn and kind of that earthy country storytelling to be in there. You could put Drake, you could put Travis Scott, you can put whoever whoever you needed to kind of have it draw inspiration from. We kind of have the articulation of perspective. We've got what I want you to do. We also have some some conditions, right? The song should be no more than 45 seconds long, right? So I don't want it writing like a just some kind of power ballad that's going to last 3 minutes, right? I want to go in and limit what we want to do. All right. What else? It has to be, it should include, and this is what we would have the young person articulate all the research they did. So what information would you include? All the research stuff that you know to be accurate, like you would go into detail about the diet, its environment, its importance in Canadian history, the fact that it likes water, all that wonderful stuff would all be inside there, right? So that would be, again, this contribution from the human to articulate the bot in the direction that I want the bot to be in, and to ensure that it's information that I can verify as well. Again, that's why that,
Mm.
it's my opinion, that research piece is the most important thing. If I can't verify what it's saying is true, then how do I know it's true, right? So it's include, I'm just going to say generically, it's diet, include the diet, habitat, habits, and lifespan of beaver, as well as its importance to Canadian history. Oop, hit the return button. Let's see what this does. So first and foremost, didn't finish everything, but I've got a little interesting situation there. Here's my verses. Streams and forest lands, building dams, as build dams, yes. Chewing bark and tender shoots, shaping nature from its roots. Oh, the beaver nature's engineer. Oh, it's an engineer. Yes, I've researched the fact that it builds dams, et cetera, et cetera. 20 years, wetlands, ecosystems, swimming strong, et cetera, et cetera. Now, the thing that I like about Perplexity is, first and foremost, if I'm an educator, the student can hit that share button, copy the link, and she can send that link to me. So I can verify what that prompt looks like. Is the prompt accurate? Does it need some work? How we might help the student build a better prompt if necessary. Great. So I've got the accountability piece there, something I always require of learners as they're using Perplexity. I want to see the link for the entire conversation that you're having with the bot, not just the research part. The other thing it does is it goes and it finds sources. Now, this is also another like piece that helps you make sure that the student is actually on the right path. So here are all the sources that it said it used. So it looked at Loretta Lynn pretty deeply, actually. All right, female country music, et cetera, et cetera. So it really did a deep dive into Loretta Lynn and Loretta Lynn's style. So, okay, cool, super dope. I've also got Conrad Twitty and Loretta Lynn's a YouTube video featuring their kids. I've got some information, some pictures of a beaver here. I can watch Loretta win some awards. Wonderful. Here's some YouTube videos on the life of beavers. So it's really a lot more honest in a lot of ways than it would be just going through ChatGPT. And if you've used that, it just magically pulls things out of the air and says, here's your answer. This gives a little bit more context to my question. And it also gives me these at the bottom, right? What are other things in Loretta Lynn's style that you like that I might incorporate to make the prompt better? How can I make the song more educational and engaging about beavers, et cetera, right? I can add some things to it, but we're going to keep it just with this, this little snippet. Again, we could go in for hours playing around with prompts and changing things and saying, what if Loretta Lynn had a duet with Drake? Would it sound differently? Would it be different work? You can really go in like very weird places. And this is why the AI is kind of cool, in my opinion, because it would take you a long time on your own to kind of figure out researching all the Drake style and Loretta Lynn style and trying to put those things together, when this can do that very, and a lot less time than it would take a human to do it. All right. So super cool. We're just going to copy this. Oh, the other thing. So we click that, I can also report. So if there's something that goes wrong with, and this is super important as you're using AI tools, most tools have a report function because of hallucinations or inaccurate information, et cetera. One of the ways you kind of like help everyone out using the tool is reporting things that are inaccurate. So hit that report button. Hey, it really didn't give me this, or it said some words that were inappropriate, or it said all those things are like super important. So I'm hit that copy button. Now, so we've got our song and concept there. Like, what does it look like now to kind of play around with giving it a voice? And so moving from kind of the daydreaming thing to more of a prototyping, really, how can we build a song? And this is not just for North American Beavers. I've done this with like kids rewriting their school songs and all kinds of stuff like that. 123 apps, invaluable tool for educators because it's free and it has a ton of tools built into it. Tons of tools. And so we have a video editor, we got a screen recorder, text to speech, we can merge video, all this stuff is free. Now we're going to use the text to speech function just because we want to give it a name. I'll give it a voice rather. The issue with the text to speech is there's a daily allowance for the number of credits you can roll with the AI here. Because it's free, they're very cost conscious. So if you have kids go and like experiment, they may experiment too much, roll it too many times and not have any more credits for the day. It just kind of keeps your IP address so that it knows who you are, and you would have to wait till the next day. So you really want to be confident in the lyrics are kind of pretty perfect, the way that you want them to be, so that as you come to 123 apps, you're good. There's another way you could do this as well. And this is another reason why I love Padlet. If you were to add anything to Padlet, Padlet has all these really cool tools built into them as well. They have a tool called Talk For Me. If you click that, you can paste. I'm gonna get rid of the citations because I don't want it to say the citations. You can paste your text inside there. Get rid of verse 2 and chorus and that and that. And you can also make it speak different languages. So if you have different language learners in your classroom, and they want to write in their home language, by all means, write in your home language, Tagalog or, Chinese or whatever it is. As long as they can type what they need to type, they can throw it in there. All right, so cool. You hit the next button. The only problem with Padlet is all the voices sound the same. It's the same voice for everything. So if you want some kind of, you want kids to have a choice in what the voice sounds like, you want to do different stuff, but that was pretty fast.
In the streams and forest lands, building dams with skilled paws and...
So it goes and says the thing, all right, cool, wonderful, beautiful. But 123 apps, if I were to paste it inside here, let me get rid of that stuff. And this is really cool to do with EL students. So second language students of any type, really cool for them to see and then listen to what they typed and see, is that actually the way it's supposed to be? So it's great for ELA instruction. Also for people like myself to go really fast, having someone else read it this way, you missed a word, you misspelled a word, your diction perhaps is not as good as it could be. Really, really cool for like that kind of check. I do when I write papers and stuff, I take what I copy the text and I put it into a tool like, again, Talk For Me or Flicky or something like that and have it read back to me. So then I can hear, oh, okay, this is what's going on. Same thing with if you're using Chromebooks or something like that. There are tons of tools on Chromebooks and on Microsoft devices as well that'll let you do it. All right, so let me get rid of the chorus there. And you'll notice the language, you can change the language again. But here's where you can change the voice. And this is what kids really like, is changing the voice. Put wave D, I don't know what that sounds like. Preview. And you'll see, I used it a couple times today. I've reached my limit. All right, so 500 symbols per day, wonderful. It's going to stop me from utilizing it. So that would be something to kind of keep in back of mind. If you use 123 apps, that would be kind of the problem. And so I am going to not do that. And thank God that I did some, let me go and do this. I've got some stuff that I used earlier. And I'm just going to drag that over there. Cool. So I'm going to say that I created my text to speech already. Oops. All right, cool. So here's my speech here.
Yo, listen up. It's the beaver on the track. North American rodeo. That's a natural.
Now, that's kind of the finished product. Wonderful. I'm going to show you how to put the instrumental track and things you might deal with, but that would be what the output sound like. Was pretend that I just have the text there. So we're cool there. Everyone's building stuff or whatever. We've got some text. Let's build an instrumental. So you really thought about again, your user likes anime or country music or whatever it is. This is another opportunity for you to infuse your ELA standards into it, as well as your science standards and your mathematics standards as well. If you have a Google account, you have access to Google AI Test Kitchen. It is probably my favorite website to utilize for AI stuff. If you're just trying to be creative and weird, because it has 4 different tools in one. And this is kind of a place where you can just play. So there's video effects, kind of messing around with video and AI and how it can impact. There's image effects, how you can kind of build around, editing images and building images. There's music and there's text effects, which Lupe Fiasco, who's a American rapper, really worked with them in terms of using text effects to help with rap lyrics and lyrics for songs. That's another place you can kind of really play around with that. Sometimes it's blocked in the United States, determined by the age of the learner, but generally I've had some pretty good success with utilizing that with students. But we're gonna go to music effects. And the reason why I really like this tool is if you're someone who's teaching creative writing, if you're someone who is very interested in having kids really, I am someone who didn't see myself as a musician as a student because I couldn't play any instruments, but I love music. I've always had my headphones on, etc. I'm someone who really is fluent in, different genres, etc. And this gives you a tool that allows the student that doesn't see themselves as a musician an opportunity to be such. And so we really, for the example that I use, I really leaned into country music. And so we're kind of just describe the sound that we want. A country music soundtrack to a movie about a North American beaver and his family as they work on their dam. All right, cool. So we've got just a description of what I want. We also have some really cool things at the very bottom here. So we have some adjectives. We want it to be soothing. We want to be relaxing, ethereal, bright, interesting. I don't want it to be any of those things, so I'm not going to use that. Don't want some funk in it. Interesting. Soul, disco. Let's make it a chill country music song. I don't know what that sounds like, so let's see what a chill country music song sounds like. Avant-garde, edgy. Let's make it an edgy country music song. I have no idea. So chill, edgy one. Let's think about instruments we might want to put in there. Do we want a saxophone? Do we want a clarinet, a flute? I don't know what a flute was. Let's use a trombone in a country music song. That would be interesting to deal with. All right. Now, over here on the side, we have some settings. And so we said the track needs to be at least 45 seconds in length. So that's one of the conditions. We're going to change that to 50 seconds. We can also make it 70 seconds, or we could loop it in 30-second increments. And I'm going to see what it sounds like in 50 seconds. All right, cool. The seed. Now, the seed is important as you use just about any AI tool that gives you the option to change the seed. The seed is important because if you keep it unlocked, it's going to be very creative in how it goes, and it makes your sound variable. If you lock that, it's going to make it very conservative. And so I want it to be as wild and crazy as possible. Let's do that. So I'm gonna hit I've got my seed there. My settings are updated. Excellent. So this is going to generate 3 songs for us, or 3 examples of songs that might fit our fancy. And we can always change them. You'll notice here already, it made country a genre, so I can go and change that. So perhaps I was thinking country at the beginning, but I'm thinking a different genre later on after I hear what it creates. Edgy trombone, I can change that. Interesting. Don't know if I'm feeling that. It's more of a jazz track, but that's interesting as well. All right, dope. But you'll notice I've got these options now. It looked at my prompt and said, these are things we can really make variable. If I didn't want to do country music, I could do a hip hop song or a chill song or whatever it is. I'm just going to pick one of these very quickly just because, like, why not? So I'm going to hit the download button. And the thing that's really cool about 123 apps is that if you're not someone who's paying for a music, some kind of music editor or video editor or whatever, it can be your music and your video editor as well. So great. That's the thing. I'm just going to drag that directly here. And suddenly there's my little music soundtrack right behind it. Wonderful, fine, dandy. Because this is free, it is not complex. It's not going to do things like any of the Adobe products would let you do. You're not going to have a lot of control over any of those things at all. But it does give you, especially students just starting out, it gives you enough control. If I click on any of these things, I can change the volume. I can change the fade in and fade out. And I can change the speed. And that's pretty much what you need to do. I've done this particular project with kindergartners and first graders in the States. Does it need to be scaffolded very well? Absolutely, positively. But again, it's not so complex that a learner wouldn't be able to deal with it. Once that's done, hit that share button. It's not a video, it's an audio file. It's going to be an MP3 and I export it. So great. We're working toward this. We had a problem, North American Beaver. Our process is going to be design thinking. Our product's going to be the song. Do we have a proto product, a product right now? Absolutely, we've got this song here. Now, if we really want to be fancy pants, here's the fancy pants thing you can do. So I've got the song there. It's wonderful. Adobe Creative Cloud Express does give teachers free access to it. All the things aren't open, but this is like the chef kiss if you really want to like be amazing and really have kids lean into their portfolios. Your students are probably CapCut masters and they're TikTok people that can do TikTok and video editing and things like that. But there's a really cool product inside of Adobe Creative Cloud Express that I use, especially with lower elementary students, that's called Animate from Audio. So Animate from Audio is going to give you the ability to pick a character, any character. I'm going to pick a Sasquatch just because he's kind of, I guess a woody person or somebody you would expect in the forest. Change the background. Let's do, I don't do desert. Let's do the new ones. Let's put them in the classroom. Great. I can change the size. So say we're looking for TikTok situation. Young people can record inside of the tool, which is really cool, but they can also browse and upload. I'm just going to record really quickly just because why not? I'm going to upload. Just a second and see what pops up really quickly.
Is this a free tool, Mike?
So it's free for teachers. There's some limits to the free portion of it. But it's good enough. The free version is good enough that you can get access to the animate from audio function. You can also build your own classroom inside there. So all your learners will be affiliated with you. And that will give you the ability, if you're using spaces, you're using whatever, give you the ability to kind of watch what kids are doing inside there. Why this is taking so long. But it is my favorite thing, especially to do at the beginning of the school year when kids are introducing themselves. I am still a very introverted person. I don't like to be recorded or whatever, despite the fact that I'm being recorded now, but it is what it is. The animate from audio function really gives kids who are very shy the ability to still converse. Here's me talking about what I want to talk about without my face being on video. This is another reason why Talk to Me on Padlet is such an important thing to deal with as well. I could just have someone talk for me on and still participate. You're gonna have kids who are just learning English who don't want to have that their voice being made fun of, perhaps, or say the wrong words or anything like that. That really gives them a tool in which to deal with that. And I don't know where my little video is, so we're going to go and do this. I'm just going to show you the example because I have examples inside of the Padlet. Oops, close. So if we come here, here's my little animation example.
Yo, listen up. It's the beaver on the track. North American rodeo. That's an actual fact. Chopping down trees with them big buck teeth. Building dams in rivers, lakes, and creeks. One. BEAVER. Canada's state animal. Yeah, you heard it here. Eaten bark and leaves, aquatic plant cuisine. Wetlands and forests, that's the beaver scene. Semi-aquatic mammal, fur thick and brown, slapping that tail when danger's around. Ecosystem engineer, tongue in the land. Grip walking through streams, beavers in command. North American beaver, Project Cat style. Representing nature for miles and miles.
So, great. Here's the thing. I'm going to turn it in. Wonderful, fine, dandy. There's some factual inaccuracies that I left inside of that song. Canada isn't a state. It's just the state animal of Canada. That would be problematic. We would go back and say, okay, is Canada a state? No, it's not a state. It's like, great. Let's go and change that to, so having kids have to close caption their work. That's another thing that if I can like throw that out, make sure students are closed captioning, they understand how to do it. There's tons of tools that allow them to do it. It also is another fact check for them. As they're going through the closed captions, are the words spelled correctly? Is the information accurate? If I was someone who could not hear or was hard of hearing or had other issues in terms of processing audio, would I be able to follow along in your particular story? So really looking at accessibility in that particular way is also important. All right, so we prototype the deal. All the videos for how to do that are here. So I've got the 1, 2, 3 apps video, how you might do that, how you might use Google AI Test Kitchen, and then my example of the little video and how you would do the animation as well. All right, so you got that. Now, if you had followed that process all the way through, the way that I kind of get around, if students aren't using Spaces or another tool that allows them to do portfolios very easily, it's how do we curate the artifacts so that everyone can see them, they can still tell the story. Again, Padlet is a great tool for that, just because, again, it doesn't require a login. If you edit something, the kid can put their first name and put their artifact inside there and explain what they were doing. And so you would submit your solution at the end. Hey, upload your song, add the lyrics, because we want people to have to read the lyrics that you had as well, and then read somebody else's and give them some feedback on it. Hey, I really like the soundtrack. The lyrics are really cool. I also a Drake fan, and I really dig those. Or, you know what? You said that Canada's state animal is the North American beaver. I don't think that's actually true because Canada is a country. Oh man, I need to go back and change that. Or, you know what? You said that was Drake style. That doesn't sound like Drake to me. That sounds like a different person. You may want to go and think about how your instrumental sounds or whatever like that, right? So great. You would rock and roll with that. Add those things there. Kids are able to converse. Padlet is a really, really cool environment just because you can set this up any way you would like. It has some AI tools inside there as well. And then, like I always have reflection. How it through the process, like what are the things that you felt? Did you feel great about things? Were you nervous? Whatever. What did you create? I created a song about X, Y, and Z. How did you feel about it? I felt amazing. I was a little nervous to share or whatever it was. And then what tools did you use in your process? I chose to use 1, 2, 3 apps, this and that, which kind of brings me to the other point. I always couch things in how might we. I hate to tell young people, you must do it this particular way. There are people who have talents in the room that you're going to be facilitating that you are unknown to you. They might know about great tools that do exactly what you're talking about, that do it in a way that's better equipped for them. Always inviting young people to say, yo, Mr. Lang, I really know how to use this particular app on my Chromebook or on my phone. Can I use this app instead? Absolutely. Does it do the same thing we're trying to? Absolutely. Great. Can you demonstrate that to other people as well? So other people have questions about my process being a little bit too complicated. They could use your process. Yeah, Mr. Lang, absolutely. So really making sure that we're allowing people to be authentic with their process as they're going through their portfolio. But that reflection, the product and the reflection at the very end as they're adding things to your portfolio is super important. And if you have the Padlet, there are some links there. So that's my email. That's me on Twitter. That's me on LinkedIn. And here's a little like guide that I put together really quickly that I think would be beneficial to you potentially for the portfolio process. I'm really big into astronauts. I like astronauts. I think they're cool. And so Karl Popper is really one of the guys who in the 1950s pushed for replicability. Can you replicate what somebody else did? And I think that's what a portfolio is walking me down this particular path so I could replicate this if I needed to, right? And it helps you learn, not only prove that you knew things to other people, it proves them to yourself as well, that I'm actually really good at this particular thing because I was able to articulate it. And so
Mm.
gotta look at it from Karl Popper's perspective. We want people to say, to really live into, I am a valued person in this community that I'm learning in, and here's why. This is why I can build the thing that I built. This is the things that I learned on that particular journey, and really giving students an opportunity to do that. And then can it's built down into productive, the problem, some how might we's inside there as well. So you can look at that, download it, and rock and roll with it. So just try to make sure that process was super simplified. And if we're looking at spaces, we have time to kind of look at spaces and portfolios real quick, Tatiana?
We have about 5, 7 minutes.
Excellent. We can do it
Yeah.
really, really quickly. So here in Nevada, one of the things that we really were interested in spaces or using spaces with was our portrait of a learner. And it's our competency-based kind of statewide project. And what we were really interested in was how could spaces be a place that allowed young people to curate their artifacts as authentically as possible. And so if you use spaces to do this, if you go to portfolios, every kid would have a portfolio, and there's a number of things in here that, you know, we kind of experimented with. Um, we could go and add to, and somebody just use the add extraordinary space. We broke our portfolio down into the 4 domains of our portrait: empowering, how our kids demonstrating they're empowered by their learning; connecting, how they connect with themselves and others; impacting, how they're impacting the world positively; and thriving, how they demonstrating that they're actually thriving in their learning. And so this is just like some stuff I threw inside here. And say I wanted to create a artifact from my portfolio. The thing that I really like about spaces is the UI is so simplistic. Like, we could use this with kindergarten learners. We can use the camera, we can use audio to record things, we can upload files, we can add things from our Google Drive or our OneDrive, and we can take links as well. And so I could title it, you know, my Beaver song. And this is why I like that reflection is so important. Really, when in this post description, I really want the young person to go from, like, I knew nothing about beavers first. Here's the process that I utilized to build this artifact. This is why this artifact matters. It was the user, et cetera, et cetera. And one of the things that we did in order to help that student do that was we built a tool. And so the tool is called the mirror. And this mirror really, what we really wanted young people to do was have a process for reflection. And so we had the artifact, they get the artifact that they designed, they had the template, and the template is a Google Doc that they walk through, and then their Spaces account. We also built a bot called Wiley that would help them make sense of their artifact. So, hey, you know, I'm really struggling as to where I want to put this artifact inside of my portfolio. Here's Wiley, and Wiley's going to kind of, we have the conversation with Wiley in terms of where I might put the artifact and whatnot. All right, great. So that's was really like one of the biggest things that we needed to do was kind of give kids a schema. I'm gonna make a copy of this really quickly just so you can see it. A schema for making sense of their artifact. So if you're going to do portfolios, I would suggest that's something that you do. And really what we wanted the young people to do before they got to Spaces was, what did they design or revise? If they designed something that wasn't up there, what was it? Why did they do it? Learning doesn't just happen in school. If they were at a basketball tournament or something like that, or a soccer tournament, they took pictures of their team or something, what that looked like. So really type, you know, kind of looking at that. A summary of what they designed or they revised, the tools they utilized to do it. Is it something they designed to help other people? What they learned, just one thing they learned from the process. Did they collaborate with other individuals? If they did collaborate with them, who were those collaborators and how did they help them? And then looking at the domains. And they would just check off the domains that they actually think they're satisfied, so that everything's there. So when they brought it to Spaces, I could just link from my Google Doc directly in Spaces and everything's good. So that'd be something that I would also like very much advise you to do as you're thinking about the portfolio process. All right, that should give us about 2 minutes. I'm gonna stop sharing there. All right, cool. But if you've got questions, comments, concerns, or beauty tips, that Padlet is there for you to kind of just steal, change things, move things around, whatever. If you want to shoot an email or whatever, I'm always down for a collaboration. I would love to do an international collaboration with you all and do a Las Vegas, Canada situation. That'd be really dope. I also
Yeah,
love
let's do
to
it.
connect you with teachers in the States as well and do some kind of really cool cross-cultural projects. So any questions, comments, concerns, beauty tips?
Thank you so much, Mike. I really appreciate you taking the time to put all of this together. I think this was a great introduction to using AI in the classroom with students, no matter their age group. I remember you said even with kindergarten, you can do this as a class, not like on an individual level. So just have the collective join in on the fun and ask everyone to contribute that way, which we mentioned was a great like first or sort of the school year sort of activity to break the ice and get everyone excited about learning. So thank you for sharing the Padlet as well. I'll make sure all of this great resource is in the follow-up email too. But I would definitely recommend looking at the portrait mirror if you have a chance after today's session. Really, really awesome student-facing resource to get our kids engaging in reflective practice with those guided questions, reflection prompts, and having that nice little rubric at the end too, just to check off if we've met those standards or not, is a great way for students to think about where they're at in their mastery of those competencies. But if you don't have any other questions, we can end this here and we can see you in the next session. Again, thank you so much, Mike. A pleasure having you here with us as always. And I'm sure we'll collaborate even more in the future.
Absolutely. Have a great rest of your day.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody.